message Mikey, but he's working again tonight. What? No, but he works from home. I think it's just a maybe paperwork and kind of stuff like that.
Hello and welcome to episode 79 of Celtic Rumours TV, the Bawz and Bovril podcast with your host Mark and myself Paul. Our form to the podcast is www.celticrumours.co.uk. You can also check out all the links to the podcast in the description below. On the show tonight, we will look at yesterday's 4-0 victory over Ross County at Celtic Park. Can Celtic keep it going for the final push till the end of the season? And with Neil Lennon returning to management with Cyprus side Omanune, in time will Neil Lennon's legacy at Celtic as a player and a manager be as a legend start this? Firstly, I hand off to Mark for a few shout-outs.
Very much, Paul. A few quick shout-outs to Tim Alloy of Glasgow Green, John United Ireland, Mikey's working away there tonight, probably. Wee special mention for Richie, but Paul Arrow, he was in college just there on Friday. A wee bit of good news, he's not going to need any more treatment for a while again, so
very good.
That's a few months now, he's not needed any, and another, I think he said it's maybe July the next check-up or that he's got, so good luck with that, Richie. We shout out to you and your family. Like, who's up we go? Bobby Sutherland, Jabra Jobbies, Will I Am, Brian in as well. Nice to see you in again, Brian. We're up at 539 subs, so we must be doing something right, Paul. Another, it's that 6 in the last week.
Very good.
I'm at 5 or 6 this week, so thanks very much for everybody that joins us, subscribes and likes the podcast and that. Remember, hit the thumbs up button and you know how to leave a comment underneath it. Thanks very much.
So Celtic remained 3 points at the top of the table after the weekend results.
But just Stubbsy before he wee shout out to Stubbsy there before he feels off. Upsetting that again. Thanks for coming in, Stubbsy boy.
After the weekend's result, the final result of the game yesterday was Celtic 4, Ross County 0, a hat-trick for Giamarcus and Dejan Mida grabbing a goal for himself as well. The stats were shots 25 to Celtic, 2 to Ross County, passes 742 to 171, pass rate was 89% to Celtic, 52 to Ross County, possession 89% to 19. A brilliant controlled performance is what I said, Mark, from start to finish. Would you agree with that?
Oh, totally, Paul. I thought, especially in the first half, we just blew them away. We really did. Second half, it maybe wasn't as effective, we'll use that as a word, but you've got to remember they were down to 10 men, and so they just were defending with everything they were worth, and Celtic didn't really need to push kind of thing, but just show Paul for put in a performance like the energy. Like that, see, we Maeda, the amount of energy he showed in that game yesterday, he never stopped for a minute of that game. I know it's only against Ross County, but that was, for me, that was Maeda's best performance in the overall performance in a Celtic jersey yesterday, without a doubt, Paul. Just thought first half, so again, we were back to some of the best football we've seen for Ange's team this season.
The last time we faced Ross County was away from home on the 15th of December when Anthony Radisson Mark scored the 97th winner. Also, Starfelt had a horrendous game that day as well. He getting sent off, and many Celtic fans started questioning his physicality side in the Scottish football. So I said it, Mark, at the start of the season, that come January when Ange gets his full squad and more signings and that he needs to play the way he wants to play. And I think between the two games between December and yesterday, we can start seeing the real value of the way Ange plays with Celtic now.
You can see the contrast in the two performances. I totally agree with you. Just what I'm saying there, Paul, we've been putting in the kind of performances at this time in this point of the season. Usually the teams are getting a wee bit tired and that kind of thing, and that kind of fatigue setting in. It's been a long, hard season, but teams at Celtic team now just seems to be going from strength to strength at a crucial point of the season.
Like you said it yourself there, Mark, and a lot of people are giving him stick because basically of his lack of goals. But we constantly said it here, Mark, in the podcast that Maeda is not an out-and-out striker. He's been played out of position, and you can see the full effect that Maeda has in the team, Mark, when he plays out in the wings. The space that he creates are like in the 87th minute, Mark, and he's still pressing the Ross County keeper, still pressing their defence. You know,
well, we spoke about that before, Paul. I know you watched a lot more in depth of him than I had, and as we know now that he was one of Ange's main targets for the summer. But for me, it was always coming in for the wing in the videos I watched on YouTube and that, and you've said the same thing as well. So, I said it all along, Paul, he's never a centre forward for me, never in a month of Sundays. And but when you seen that performance for him yesterday, you can see what he brings to the team when he is played out wide.
Like that performance yesterday, Mark, was, if you look back to Ange's first training session, and he said, "We don't stop, we never stop." His performance yesterday was an example of that. You know, just didn't give up. Even when he didn't have the ball back, he was still pressing, still going, tracking back, getting tackles in. Delighted he got the goal, Mark, because I think his performance deserved it.
Definitely. But Kyogo done the same, Paul. So can you imagine when you've got they two harassing the two centre backs or even the goalkeeper and the centre back, things like that?
You could see as well yesterday that Ange has been walking himself and Hayate together. I think they're
we flicks to each other and stuff like that. You've got a good kind of understanding and rapport going there, haven't they?
But I suppose, Mark, look, the main man again yesterday, you know, he's been a loose signing since he came back from the winter break. Giacomakis, his second hat-trick in the Hoops jersey.
I don't know if Buzz has put anything up on the forum or that, Paul. Has any Celtic player done that before? Scored like two consecutive games in Celtic.
I think Hartson said it was Larson did he?
I don't know, Paul.
I don't think he did actually, Mark.
As I said, I thought maybe Buzz would have put something up about that kind of thing, but yeah, you can't fault Giacomakis for just safe after the winter break, Paul. I mean, many goals is that he's got for us now?
11.
11.
And odd first touch goals, Mark.
I've seen him talking about that as well, but I mean, it's just what we said, Paul. It's just your kind of out and out centre forward. Look at the difference between him and Maeda.
Mhm.
No, I think Marcus has just kind of got that knack of being in and about the box. And so
But you know what,
I saw Hartson and Simon Donnelly talking about that, and how Hartson said then he liked to have time to think about things. He liked to just go with his
Mhm.
instinct, and that's what
Mhm.
Big Gio seems to be doing. I mean that his second goal, the header one, Paul, he put her into the right hand, or left hand side of the post.
Mhm.
Like a rebound, I mean that's just a total striker's instinct. You can't teach that kind of instinct. And
No.
I was reading that thing another during the week, and I don't know who it was. Whether it was, I think it was an ex-player that was actually talking about it, Paul. They were talking about how he made a mistake going to EAK Athens. I
Mhm.
think he spent 2 or 3 years there, and he says it just was a disaster for day one for him. I can't even remember who it was now. I'm sure it was an ex-player saying that he always knew that this guy was a player in there, and
Mhm.
don't end up top goal scorer playing for a, you know what, you're no with Ajax or Feyenoord, Paul. You don't end up top goal scorer league if you're garbage.
Mhm.
Let's be honest about it.
Do you know, like himself and Reed Mark, like sometimes during the game, I noticed it was like we had two central forwards. That Marita was that like there's killer instinct between the two of them, and two
I,
of them feed off rebounds. So like for his
For
goal,
a long spell of the game, Paul, like Juranovic was playing as a right winger, and
yeah, that's what I'm
aye,
saying. The Marita, like because Ranovic was playing so high, and that's the benefit of Andrew's system, Mark. That we need all wing backs to basically be the wingers, Mark, and these fellas then push in to make like a three-man centre forward line or something.
aye.
Like I don't know what, do you know what I mean? But I'm very impressed with that performance yesterday, Mark. And one fella as well, Mark, I wanted to single out was because of the last game he played against, we got sent off, and a lot of people were questioning him again over his physicality in December, saying, "Oh, they were crying for when's Julian back, when's Julian back." But Starfelt, Mark, was in total control yesterday of that game. I know Ross County didn't offer nothing, but what they did, himself and Cameron Vickers controlled it.
Even done a wee bit of showboating, didn't he, with his wee kind of
Mm,
pirouette with the ball kind of thing. But
mm,
I've always liked Starfelt. I've said these shaky moments in that, but I think he's solid and dependable enough. And
mm,
to be honest with you, Paul, I'd tell them more Julian all the time.
mm, most definitely. You know,
And again,
like you can
I thought Taylor had a good game as well yesterday. I think Taylor's really been playing well over the last few weeks as well. Takes a lot of
think
stick, and again, I always back him up. But I think he's really proved himself.
I think he's getting a bit more. He looks like Mark. He put on a bit more weight. That he looks a bit more stocky or muscular or something. Did you notice that?
Does he's looking a wee bit better at himself, so you might be right, Paul.
Hmm.
But as I say, I've always stick up for him. Like, he's just a kind of dependable player, do you know what I mean? And I really think he's no Bibby took it to a new level. I'm not going to go that far, Paul, but he's definitely upped his game. I
Hmm.
don't really think anybody can fault Taylor or the people that have over the time. I think anybody that's slag Taylor off, Paul, needs to kind of hold their hands up a bit and admit, well, he's not as bad as we've kind of made him out to be. He just seemed to be the whipping boy for everything for a
Hmm.
long while there.
Hmm. Before we move on, Mark, look, the game again was spoiled by a reckless tackle by Kenya Ramsey, which was dissolved of a red card. But like this shouldn't have happened. Like Don Robson, the referee, should have given out bookings to Ross County players early on in the game, and this kind of tackle wouldn't happen. So, like I thought, look, I know Celtic won, but we have to highlight it when Celtic are winning. But that was another poor performance by Don Robson yesterday.
Overall, I think it was, Paul, but to be brutally honest, Paul, see the red card, I'm not 100% convinced it was a red card for me. It was just because you get for a start. I know he went in with studs up and all these rules and that of the game, Paul. But I think it was Simon Donnelly that said on Celtic TV back in his day that wasn't a red card.
Yeah, and I think
it was
that
just,
I
it was
think
just
that
a, it was just
look,
a bit
it's
of,
just it's just a modern game now, Mark. You
I know, I know,
can't
I
do that,
know.
like
I
and
just, in my kind of opinion, who says Paul, we know the rules are rules now, but in my opinion, it wasn't a red card. I thought the first one that he should have got booked for, I thought that was probably worse, Paul,
hmm
because at least see the one that he did get sent off for, he get the ball first. He did get the ball
hmm
first to be able to be honest about it. So, but the referee again, he just said he should have a grip of it early on because if that kind of just took the pure gas out of anything that Ross County were even trying to do, kind of thing.
that's what I was saying, Mark. I'm saying it for years that, and since we did the podcast, I'm saying it like that. If the referees don't get a handle on the game early on, these type of tackles will happen, and we've seen that, and we could be end up missing Tom Roderick now for the next game, and which is against Shevko. You know what I mean? So we could be missing him because of that. Like that's why I think like it's not. It's like it's more consistency, Mark. I don't know what it is. Like I mean, it's you can't. It's poor refereeing, all right? Like, but there seems to be no consistency in tackles. You know what I mean? One tackle's all right to do,
There's just
another
no
tackle's not all right.
there's just no consistency at all across the refereeing
And
fraternity,
it's
if you
not
want to
just
call them.
Celtic fans,
No,
because
I
we
mean,
had Ronan on complaining about this exact same thing.
there Bobby
You
saying
know?
on the live chat there, look at the penalties that they got today.
Yeah,
I mean,
Morales put the jersey back.
that's referees. We keep saying this. I keep saying this every time we bring it up. Paul. Referees have got to be answerable for these decisions they're making.
hmm
There's got to be somebody somewhere that's asking asking them why are you making that decision.
hmm hmm
And I think managers, I think players, I think fans have got a right to know why they're making the decisions. I mean,
Exactly.
who's the wee baldy guy? That Dermot Gallagher. I
hmm
mean, I would like to see what he says about that penalty decision today.
hmm Because he always comes out and he always gives his decent opinion and stuff, Mark.
He's fair. And I mean, he was one of the best referees in the world years ago.
hmm
So you kind of can. I don't. You respect his opinion on things. You know what I mean?
hmm
He's got the knowledge and the experience to be able to call things the way they should be called.
hmm
But it's just another thing in Scotland,
The
Paul,
one,
the referees, as we
the,
keep going on about.
the one thing I say about Morales is he won't be asking for a bigger jersey because Jesus Christ, he was busting out of that fucking thing today. You know?
Like a second skin on him, wasn't it?
Oh my God, it was Jesus Christ. You could see the flubber
The
fucking
fl-
rolling around. The thing that
the,
if I ever saw a boy, I'm a great fan, Mark, of the old Real Madrid jerseys. No, when there was just all white strips and stuff like that.
aye.
But that's a horrible jersey that Rangers did there. That white jersey, it's horrible.
See, when you go off this, Paul, Google a song, my granddad's flannel night shirt, George Formby. Just that's right. It's just an old song. And Google that. I put it on one of the blogs I go on, that Paddy on the Railway blog. I put the video in with the header pop about it. That's what came straight into my head about it. But
hmm
they're a punter for your slim fast, Paul.
Oh, I tell you that, Jesus Christ, that would work on him. He'd want fucking loads of it. So Celtic are 3 points clear going into the international break. Uh, Celtic faced the Rangers on April the 3rd and St. Johnstone's on the 9th before the split. There's also a Scottish Cup semi-final on the 19th of April, but we're just going to mostly concentrate, Mark, on the league, and we'll deal with the Scottish Cup when that
It
comes.
was around.
Yeah. So,
I didn't even know it was an international break, Paul. We were on the live chat yesterday.
yeah,
Oh,
it always seems to come when Celtic are on a run, when we have a full squad, Mark. You know, and it always seems to
it's
come
only
around at a bat. And this time, Mark, we have a
it's
lot
only
of players.
friendlies to enter.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, what's the point in that?
yeah. And this time, Mark, we've a lot of players called up for
Well,
international.
said to you
You
the
know,
other day, Starfelt's been called up. So it's
yeah,
Giacomakis, isn't
yeah,
he? Aye.
yeah. Giacomakis, Project. You know, I mean, I'd be surprised if
and Tony Ralston still can't get in the Scotland squad.
I mean, that's
As I say, I don't bother with
yeah.
international football, but come on, Tony Ralston's the best Scottish right back, surely.
Exactly.
Who does Scotland play at right back, Paul?
Is it that fat O'Donnell? Is it O'Donnell? Is it?
But I'm for Kilmarnock, Motherwell.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I think that's him, all right. There, that plays in that position there as well, Mark. I think it is all right. Yeah.
that Patterson, he got in the squad. I've seen people moaning about that as well.
So how's he getting in? Like he's not even getting in the first team bench. Everything. And look how bad everything are. If John Joe Kenny's getting in there in front of him,
The Everton fans seem to be raving about John Joe Kenny.
Fuck, we weren't. Jesus Christ! I
Just
know what. I know what we saw of him, Mark. You know, was it just because of last season? Maybe everyone was just inconsistent. You know.
I just don't think it was. To be honest, Paul, I just think it was a move that nobody actually. I don't even think he wanted to move up here or anything. I think he just was looking for a wee bit of a break for Everton, Paul.
So the last time, Mark, we really looked at the league table was in January. We were 6 points behind Rangers, but the table tells a different story. You know, Celtic were actually first. We played 31, won 24, drew 4, lost 3, points 76, goals for 69, goals against 18, goal difference 51. Rangers in second, played 31, won 22, drew 7, lost 2, points 32, goals 62 against 25, goal difference of plus 37. So, Mark, the question is, do we have enough? Do Celtic have enough to get 7 games to go, Mark? You know what I mean? We're 3 points ahead. Like, no one thought this come January, Mark. We were 6 points behind. We were kind of happy at the start of the season that we could be competitive, like, but we're in a good position now. And
I'll be in the driving seat, Paul. I've got 100%, Paul. We've got what it takes to get this title wrapped up. I've got that. When John was on at the beginning of the season, he was like, "We'll win the treble this year," and they kind of laughed at him. I think there's a real good possibility to win the treble, but I'm 100% confident, Paul, that we win that league now. 100%.
Like, we're already close to eliminating last season. Last season, we finished on 77 points. Goals for, Mark, we had 78. Goals against, we've 29. Our average pass rate per game is in around 89%, but we're averaging nearly 700 passes. You know what I mean? Like, what Ange has done to this team that, like, I wouldn't even say it was a team, Mark, when he came in. It was a depleted squad. You know?
This is a very impressive job, Paul, even in what Wim Jansen done this season. Because we had we know we don't know. I mean, it was Tommy Burns. We all enjoyed watching the teams that Tommy Burns put out in the park. It was just when you get it over the line. But Wim Jansen had a good stock of players there. Think back to the mess we were in June and July time. We're sitting here talking about waiting and Eddie Howe making his mind up and things like that, Paul, and look at actually where we are sitting now. It's unbelievable the turnaround in the club. All the Peter Lowell talk and Don Mackay came in and then he done a bunk and stuff like that, but that's the job that Ange's done this year, Paul, honestly. And see, even if we don't win the league, he's still done a fantastic job for me.
I think because, Mark, of last season, we still kept a lot of experienced players as well, like players who we thought, Mark, that weren't going to be at Celtic, like so Roderick, Beaton, you know, like McGregor's there now. He seems to be a different captain than Skpe. We've the experience of Joe Hart, like he's another winner. I think that these players can be key, Mark, because one, they tasted victory for many years with Celtic. And with Joe Hart, Mark, he's been a winner throughout all his career with Man City, and he's been over in Italy when he's playing in World Cups. Like, you know, it's full of winners.
Joe Hart's been there, done it, and wore the t-shirt, Paul, kind of thing, through Man City, playing wing. I mean, look at the pressure the England players are under. I hate them, I don't know how you feel about it, right, but think of the pressure that the players are under constantly. I mean, mind when Beckham missed the penalty, they were hanging effigies in for lampposts and that down in England. So
Mhm.
Joe Hart knows, Joe Hart will be using this and his kind of experience. He'll be helping the guys that aren't used to this kind of thing. I mean, look at Matt Orley. I mean, he was playing with MK Dons and now he's up here playing with one of the biggest clubs in the world.
Mhm. I think
Chance to win league titles, chance to win cups in front of 60,000 fans. For guys like that will maybe need a wee kind of, you know what I mean, a wee word in here just to keep their nerves about
I've
and
seen a lot of
keep themselves focused on the prize.
fans as well, Mark, of saying that, oh, we could Roger could be out now for the derby, and we could miss him for that game again in Ibrox. But I'm looking, going, will he? Will he actually be a miss now, Mark? Because of like what you said there, now like we have O'Reilly. You know, for
But
me, O'Reilly will give the legs in that type of game that
Turn,
Roger
Turnbull's
won't give
back.
us.
Turnbull's back as well. Do you know what I
What,
mean?
what legs will Tom will give us?
No, but I'm talking, well, what legs did Rogic give us? You're talking,
Roger has a bit of skill. What does Tom? I just don't see.
oh,
I just don't see the hype in Tom, man. I just don't. I just don't.
just, he's no progressed, he really hasn't he? But
No.
again, Paul, I keep going on, he's actually not played that many games of football in his career when you look back on him. I mean, he's
Mhm.
22, 23. I looked this up last night, mate. I can't remember now. I think he's only maybe played around about 150 games in his full career.
Mhm.
Which really, when you think about it at that age, Paul, isn't really that much.
I think in Andrew's system now, Mark, how fast we're playing at the moment, Tom will struggle with the pace of that game. And
I don't know, I
and then
don't
going
know.
back to what yourself and Terence said, and when you were talking, should he be maybe change his position and start falling back and lawn off Cal McGregor, falling back into a more deeper role rather than being in the forward role.
Having to kind of run as such as you're going about.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
well, maybe. To be honest, Paul, see if Andy's picking his players and working with him, I'm quite happy about that. Do you get? He's not let us
Well, I
down.
would, but if I saw Turnbull in the Glasgow Derby, Mark, in front of Mrida, in front of Yota or Bada in that front line, I would worry about that starting lineup.
But he's not going
That,
to. He's not going to play Turnbull out wide, is he?
no, but even Hayate, would you play Turnbull instead of Hayate? Would you play Turnbull instead of O'Reilly?
No, probably no.
Yeah,
But
you know, and if I saw him taking,
Would you play Rogic in front any day too?
no, I wouldn't. That's what I'm saying. That I
So
don't think Rogic
so
would
we're
be a
not going
miss.
to miss him.
I wouldn't think Rogic would be a miss for the Glasgow Derby because we have the players now, Mark. Do you get me? We have O'Reilly
But
to slot in there.
so
Do you know what I mean?
So Rogic would probably start on the bench going with you. You're
I
reckoning.
would have, yeah.
But so
Most definitely.
it'll be
You know, I
Turnbull. It'll
think,
be Turnbull on the bench. That's what
I
I mean.
think,
And we're no kind of short in midfield numbers.
you know, I think in that game, uh, Rangers were trying to attack us more, Mark, than they did in the last game because they don't know what Celtic is about. And I think we need the likes of O'Reilly and Hayase in and around Callum McGregor to cover that midfield area like we did in the last game. You know, I think definitely the two of
Aye,
them have to be played.
that's who I would go with. Aye, there Bobby Sutherland saying it. I really attacking Calmac. For me, that's my best midfield three.
Hmm. Hmm.
It really is, and that's who I would go with. I would go with at Ibrox. Obviously, with Rogic, if he is going to be injured, Turnbull can come on you can take that kind of place on the bench.
Hmm.
Come on when we're
I
3
suppose
nothing up.
another plus mark as well for the running with the 7 games to go is that we're not conceding a lot of goals. I mean, we've only conceded 18 goals. Like we've the best defense in the league. We seem to be kind of what I'm looking at is that we've seemed to be working on set pieces in both defending and attacking kind of set pieces as well.
Aye.
Mark, in the last couple of games, we seem to be kind of doing a bit of
So
work there as well. I think.
you can see that they're trying different kind of ideas off the training ground, Paul. Instead of
Well, that's good, Mark,
just oh
because
aye,
like
instead of just putting
you look,
crosses into the box. You see a
like
lot of
when
these
you,
free kicks in that, Paul. Not the defensive
Mhm,
side of the free kicks, but see like the attacking free kicks. I would let the players just sort the kind of things out themselves.
mhm, mhm,
Do you know what I mean? Well, we could try this and you flick that out. Do you get what I mean? Let them work out we fancy things themselves that will maybe cause surprises.
mhm. Like if you don't have the biggest team, you have to have alternatives, Mark, and I think that's what we're doing. Like Callum McGregor seems to be free in the edge of the box, or there could be another player. Like we seem to be
That one, yeah,
trying different things.
that one yesterday with McGregor was a bit of a shocker right off the free kick where they just
Mhm,
kind of cut it across him at the edge of the box. And I think I can't remember who took it, but I think they actually cut it too hard for what they were trying to do. And McGregor
mhm,
was kind of further out of the park than he planned to be. But it's good to
mhm,
see a variation in these things. And
mhm.
just see we're
And
looking a lot more solid at the back as well when we're defending set pieces
mhm.
that are coming in on us.
Stubbsy must be reading my notes, Mark. The goal difference, Mark, I think could be huge as
Oh,
well for
goal.
Celtic. This.
It's like fair dues, it's like another point, but I don't think it'll be difference will come into it, Paul. I
Mhm.
really don't. If we go to Ibrox and win, I can see us winning the league with maybe 8, 9, 10 points.
See, Mark, the key there was, and I'm saying it like I'm not saying in a negative way. Like, do we have to win that game? We've the cushion of 3 points. Like, if we could get a draw there, you know what I mean? Would you
No,
be happy with a draw there, Mark? If we got a draw there and keep the 3 point gap and then push on for this place and then take them back to Parkhead and beat them in Parkhead?
if you asked me that in 2 weeks, Paul, I'd probably say I'd be happy with the draw, but here and now, no, go there to win, but just go there
Hmm.
every game.
But that's what I'm
This what
saying,
I'd
Mark.
say is we don't
We
stop.
don't. Yeah.
This is what we do. No matter who we're playing, we're not going to have any Celtic
Mhm.
fans here. If we can turn up there and turn them over there, that'll destroy their confidence for
Definitely.
not just this season, Paul. Because even at that, we're going on. If we get into we win the league, we get into the Champions League, the money that brings in. This is what Celtic should have been doing for years, Paul.
Hmm.
Dominating Scottish football. This is what they should have been doing. And
Hmm.
getting into the Champions League, not every year, even every 1 out of 3, 2 out of 3 would have done. But the years that we do all that, 9 chances to get into the Champions League, and what happened? The kind of
Hmm.
money you're getting that's going to put us on even another level. If we win this league and get the Champions League money, Paul, we should be able to dominate again for at least the next 5 years at least. And
Hmm.
another Champions League, maybe even longer than that. It's time we moved on for just and
No,
I
what
keep
I'm saying
saying it.
like
Look at
that.
it like treat Scottish football the way PSG treat French football and things like that.
Mhm.
Just take a breath there. I was
No, what I'm
a wee
saying
bit
is
of a
that
rant there.
the pressure is not on us to win, Mark. Do you get me? The
Oh,
pressure is
all the
actually
pressure
on
is on
Rangers to
them.
win.
Oh, 100
Yeah,
percent.
and if we do get an early goal, Mark, and if their fans start turning like we don't know if there's actually going to be Celtic fans in that stadium for that game. Nothing that's gonna come out yet, like so we don't know. Like, but if we quieten Ibrox and their fans turn against them, like you can see the pressure already, Mark, is on them. Like I know they won today, like, but Tavernier blown his penalty over the bar, like a shocking penalty that was. You can see the pressure is coming on Rangers, and they're already hanging on by their necks, in my opinion.
Oh, they can even tell for their fans the pressure's getting to them, Paul.
Hmm.
I think a lot of the fans have actually voted off the league already and just don't want to admit it. They're not a good team. They're not a good team. They weren't a good team under Gerrard, and for me, they've actually got worse under Van Bronckhorst, which surprised me. I stuck up. I thought Van Bronckhorst was a decent coach. Maybe it's the players he's got there. I mean, half the guys they brought in January, they hardly got a game for them. That Sands in that.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I don't. The fans, the thing we need fans in that, obviously, that's going to maybe affect players that. But when the football side of things, Paul, I don't think Celtic should do anything that they're going to come up against the Ibrox in 2 weeks' time. I really, honestly don't.
I think that's the winning mentality, Mark, that we've seen in Celtic in previous years. That Ange has brought that back. to the squad, but he's brought it back in a different way, Mark, that we're playing fast football, Mark, that we never saw Scottish football play. In all my years in watching Celtic, Mark, and watching Scottish football, Celtic have never been as an aggressive presser of the ball since Ange came in.
No, no, it's a breath of fresh air, isn't it? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you said, but years in that we've sort of watched games for the continent and teams, what is it, the expression that you hear the commentators use? Like the hunting packs, the
Mm-hmm.
opposition get the ball kind of thing, the hunting packs and they're shutting them down and not giving them time in that. And that's exactly what Ange's getting doing. I said earlier,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen with Maida yesterday, you throw a wee Kyogo into the mix doing the exact same thing. It's just constant pressure
Tons
all the
pressure.
time. I keep getting back as well to that.
I think he has to start as well, Mark. That because we saw it in the first game, the pressure he was putting on their defence
Who?
and Merida.
Oh, right.
I'm pressing McGregor as well, Mark, into making mistakes, kicking the ball out of play. Their defence was kicking it. If we keep their defence under pressure, Mark, and non-stop attacking them like that and non-stop pressing them, they'll crack, they'll crumble. Like Tavernier doesn't want to be staying back in that back line, Mark. If we can keep Tavernier and Brasic pressed back, they don't like to be on the front.
But Van Bronckhorst, he's got them sitting back anyway,
Yeah,
Paul.
he doesn't they don't like it, or so I mean that's what I'm saying. Like they don't like that role that Giovan Broncos has for him. And it's only playing into our hands, really, like, isn't it? And even if they do attack, Mark, that's playing into our hands as well because
Aye,
we have the pace to attack that space then, you
aye,
know?
and they've got that. The teams get that kind of quick thinking in it, Paul. There was a breakaway yesterday
Mm-hmm.
in the Ross County game, and it was just settings, and that was us up at their end of the park, Paul. You know what I mean? And
Taylor's pass, that was Taylor's pass. Remember Taylor's pass?
was it Taylor?
Oh
Aye,
man, that was just as you said, Mark, there's a lot of players now in this Celtic team that we don't dwell on the ball. It's all for instant. Bang, the ball is gone. And that's the way Ange wants it. Don't sit there dwelling on the ball. Just get rid of it. You know where the player is going to be. Put that ball into that space
aye.
and the player will be there. You know? I think that's the understanding
I
that
mean, even
the
see
players
you
have.
could even see players trying passes yesterday. They weren't quite coming off for that, but see if they came off, sort of, they'd have been world class passes. To be honest,
Oh,
Pia Riley done one.
some
Paul tried to
some of those
with
passes
outside.
yesterday,
He
Mark.
done one with
Yeah.
outside his foot, and see if that came off. I think it was a bad it was it wide at the time. I'm not
Mhm.
sure, and that would have been him clearing and
Like
going
some
now.
of those passes, Mark, if they were actually got through and if they were goals, like they were beauty of goal. Like even for J Marcus goals there, Mark, some of the play to build up to those goals was unbelievable. You know what I mean? And there's one thing I wanted to put you to is the chopping and changing throughout the game from Yota and Maeda. They didn't even know
Aye.
who they were marking, Mark. 1 minute Yota's on the left, then it's Maeda and on the right, vice versa.
That
The chopping.
drives players out of position. It kind of it
Mhm.
gets into that heat kind of thing, mate. They know I'm meant to be
Like
marking
that's
him,
my
and
man. Yeah, that's my man over there. Like, what's my man doing over there? Do you know what I mean? Like, but I'm still a, a, an unbeliever. But I think Yota is better on the left. I think he's more effective on the
aye,
left.
I think so too. Aye,
You know.
I heard the commentator saying he was just switching sides depending where the sunshine was yesterday. He's in his contract that he's to depend the sunshine if it's shining down.
Mhm.
But
You know, like
I definitely prefer him out on the left. But Maeda I think could play in either flank to be honest.
yeah, he's comfortable, Mark, isn't he?
Aye, but Jota's definitely more effective out on the
He
left. The
really is,
left.
Mark. I was looking at our press yesterday, and a lot of people don't like, but I was looking, and the press doesn't work without two players. After the start of the season, when Kyogo was out of the team, our press didn't work. Now we have Kyogo's out, we have Merida, the pressing's working again. And when Merida wasn't in for a few games, the press did. these two Japanese lads, Mark, are key to where Ange wants to play with his high press. I think
Aye,
definitely.
I think so as well, Paul.
You know,
And
it's it's
it's
unbelievable,
certainly
Mark.
looking like
Like, isn't
that.
it? You know,
Definitely
like
looking like that. And even if you throw, I mean, even throwing a Bada's doing a good bit of pressing as well with his own Paul. I've
yeah.
noticed there's not quite as much as the
Even
Japanese lads,
Marcus,
but
Mark. You
aye.
know what I mean? Even Marcus, like he doesn't stop either. Like, but when you see the lads, Mark, like, and some defenders don't even have the ball, like, and there's Dijon Meader right next to him, like, you know. And I saw a clip yesterday. There was a Ross County player on a motorbike, and Dejan Meader was catching up with him, like, so that's how.
But they're just cutting off that option for. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah,
That's all they're doing,
yeah.
narrowing down the options, and
No, down the angles.
basically, Paul, they're just trying to force them into a mistake or force their keeper or the defender just to punt it up the park. That's basically what this is for, really. If you're not actually getting possession out of it, but you're just forcing them to go like a long ball because the chances are you're going to get it back. But
Hmm.
as you say, Gio Kamakis, he does a hell of a lot of pressing as well. And
Definitely.
I,
And also, Mark, he seems now set on this back four. Ivanovic, Vickers, Starfelt, Taylor. I think, considering we look at last season with our defence and our goalkeepers situation, that's an area we I think could win us the league this season is the goalkeeper and our defence because we're not leaking goals. He's never changing that section
and
too regularly. Do you get me? He might throw in Radisson 1 week or one game or something like that, but he's keeping the same kind of four kind of always together, Mark, isn't he?
well, it seems to be picking out that, like, even throwing Ralston into the mix, Paul, he seems to be picking out the same five players all the time.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
it's basically either Juranovic or Ralston at right back, and the other three, it seems as you say, is Carter Vickers, Starfelt, and Taylor. And it's
mm-hmm.
working, Paul. I mean, I know people will be saying, oh, we need to buy a left back in the summer, we need to. I don't know. I think Ange likes Taylor, Paul, to be honest.
Definitely.
He certainly trusts him. And if we can see him improving, Paul, look at the turnaround and play Rockets to players like Ralston. Who knows what Taylor could. You know what I mean? I think Ange
Mm-hmm.
likes Taylor. Supposedly he's a good trainer, Paul. Trains hard, the kind of thing. He's always ready to learn, willing to listen to
But
his
I said
advice and
too,
things
Mark,
like
that
that.
when we did that piece in there a couple of weeks back, and I said to you that Anne said one of the biggest voices in the dress room is actually Taylor. You
Aye,
know,
I mean,
and he works
there's a few
closely
players like that,
with
Paul. That
McGregor. So I say Beaton, Hart, Taylor, McGregor, Project maybe Mark. Do you think
or
is he
big voices and
James Bond?
Forrest, be Jim Forrest, no shy, put his point across in the dressing room or that either, Paul.
Hmm.
Another,
There's
and
a
again, Paul, look at the experience Forrest got.
It's just a pity he picked up that injury, again
I know,
the last time, because in fairness to him, he did play well
aye,
the
had
last.
came back, it gave him a bit of stick for not being doing
Mhm,
too well, but he had the last couple of games he's played, it's been no bad. Eh.
mhm.
But I
But
mean, these guys, Paul, they've earned the right to be big voices. You know what
mhm.
I mean? Is that they're talking about where the Orleans came from, MK Dons. I mean, he's coming up to that same guys now that played Champions League. We're talking about Celtic players, the Joe Hart's there. Do you get what? I'm not saying they're kind of awestruck, but if these guys speak up in the dressing room, I imagine it can be pretty brutal at times if you're not pulling your weight, to be honest, Paul.
I think um, this
These young guys,
John Harton said it.
they're going to listen, aren't they? But
John Harton said it on his Twitter feed that the thing about Celtic this season, Mark, is that they have a manager, and if you're not playing the way he wants you playing, you're going to be out of the team. So he said that's why every single player is playing to their best every single game because they know that if they're not playing a certain way that Ange wants them to be, you're not going to be starting.
Oh, well, what game was
You
it?
know,
You could hear Ange shouting at Beaton to stop passing
beat
it
on,
back.
yeah, start passing it back, yeah, start passing it back, and he went ballistic over it. You know, but
But
to
see,
see
but Paul, that's what it should be like. That's, yeah, what I mean, I mean, we're simplifying it, Paul, but that's what it should be like. If your manager's telling you to do something, you need to do it.
hmm exactly.
And if you're
You know,
not
that's
doing,
why I
if you're
think,
not doing
Mark,
it,
that
you've got a problem. And that's what I
that's why
look at Julian.
that
Julian's
that
obviously.
that's why, Mark, I think when certain games, when we didn't play to a full capacity and high tempo, I think a lot of that was down to the players, not Ange, because he certainly doesn't want them playing that way when they're so slow on the ball, taking too many touches. And I think that kind of has stopped now because you look at the game back in December when we needed a Radisson goal, like we controlled the Ross County game that day, but we were still very slow in that game. But now every player is just, you know, Marcus, it gone whole, like freaking all out attack, like it seems to be. We seem to be what Ange's system is, Mark, and I'm looking at it like
Hacks can
what
come from anywhere of the
yeah,
park, Paul. That's
but
into
he wants
that's.
the game over by half time. More than likely, Mark, he wants that game over by half time. Like, you know what I mean, Celtic just they seem to go full throttle like for the first half an hour, 30 minutes, Mark, trying to get that goal. But in some games, then Mark, it doesn't come. But we don't stop. Like the system stays the same. I know it can be frustrating, and you're thinking, where's the goal going to come here? But eventually, Mark, we saw against Dundee United, the goals come. You know, we tie your
That's it.
teams down, Mark, don't we? Like the old Barcelona, we tie you down.
You
You know.
grinding out the result, aye.
Mhm.
But we do seem
Yeah.
to see if we don't, we do. I've said that a few times as well on here, Paul. That if we don't get that early goal, we do seem to we kind of struggle a bit.
That's it. So that's what I'm saying, Mark. Does that seem to be the players, though? Not so much Ange. I mean, is that the players then maybe
But
bringing in the Brendan
aye.
Rodgers style of play, then, Mark, that we had passing the ball side to side? Because we, as you said, Mark, you saw with Beaton when he passed that ball back and snapped at him, like, why are you passing the ball back? Get the ball forward. Do you know what I mean? You know?
Yeah, well, every that's the football, isn't it? Get the ball up the other end of the park as quickly as you can.
Exactly.
And no matter
You
how
were
you
just saying,
on you
sorry, go
go.
on.
On you
You were
go.
just saying there, and I had it down my notes as well that everything seems to be going well for Celtic at the moment, Mark, and everything seems to be going things. But there's a rumour going around, and you just mentioned him there, Julian. There seems to be some rumour that he's after taking the old French dummy out again, and he's not happy that he's getting a chance. We said it numerous times here, Mark, but Ange has never saw him play.
No,
Like,
and for me, for me, Julian isn't trying to displace Starfield or Carter Vickers. Julian starting needs to displace young Welsh.
hmm
And
hmm
as I keep saying it, Paul, he's come to somebody who's got a year left in his contract. So in the next, well, what did you say? There's 7 games left.
7 games, yeah.
7 games left and 2 cup games to go. 9 games. Julian's got 9 games to save his Celtic career. Can you see him doing it?
No, like I can't understand, Mark, how he thinks and how any Celtic fan thinks. Like I still see Celtic fans crying for Julia. Like
But
what have you seen in Julian to take either Cameron Vickers or Starfelt out of that first team?
well,
Do you know?
who? Well, we're trying to convince Carter Vickers to stay.
hmm
Right, so so we're trying to convince Carter Vickers to stay, and Julian and Celtic are kind of impasse whether he's going to be staying or no. Who would you rather get the game time to try and keep happy? Carter Vickers or
Exactly,
Julian?
exactly.
Starfield, he's an Ange signed him.
And you
He's
already
not
have
going to. He's not going to drop. He's like his signing as his centre back. His centre back signing. He's not going to drop his centre back signing for Julian.
and you
He's never
already
seen
have
in a game or nothing.
like you said with Welsh there as well, Mark. Like we already have Italian teams sniffing around Welsh at the moment, so that just shows what player Welsh can actually be in the future for Celtic. Do you know what I mean? Like, do we want to stop playing Welsh and,
No,
and, and dimming his progress.
Brian's bringing that up, that thing about Julian's face at the Wraith Rovers Cup game.
Hmm.
I mean, his face was tripping him and all sorts of. I mean, people. I keep saying on here, Paul. See the people you're talking about that are clamouring for Julian to be playing. It's as if he's sitting there and it's Nemanja Vidic or somebody like that that's sitting in waiting to come back for an injury. I mean, Julian, every game we were always kind of not every game, but the Livingston types of teams, they kind of teams, we always were questioning how he could handle the physical side of the game.
Exactly.
And just because he can ping a nice fancy pass for centre back, doesn't warrant him just getting back into the team automatically. As I said, he needs to displace Welsh to even get into Angie's thinking, in my opinion. Because young Welsh has never let us down. Welsh has never let us down.
That's what I'm saying, Mark. Like, there's obviously, like, we've seen how good Welsh can be, Mark, when he came in, not just in the league, but in Europe as well. But the thing that we know that Welsh is going to be a good player, Mark, is because already there seems to be Italian teams sniffing around him. Do you know what I mean?
They're not sniffing about.
Exactly.
Rubbish defenders, you know what I mean? Italian games kind of based on that. Well, I am. No way is Julian a better player than Starfelt, mate. No way, I'm not having that.
But he's not having that. Mark. And I remember that game that you're going there about, the Red Rovers game, and Michael Stewart was the commentator with Chris Sutton that time, and he said that he's very surprised that Ange didn't play him, like, and Chris Sutton's going, but why? And Chris Sutton is saying, Chris Sutton's realistic, Mark. He sees as Liz, and he says as Liz, and he's saying the same thing as me, you, and the lads in the live chat. What has Julian done to justify getting into the starting lineup?
Aye, but well, he's obviously
how fit actually is he, Mark? After nearly a year and a half out with injury, how fit actually is he? You know what I mean? Like, if he was bad enough, Mark, to get a few knocks before, can you imagine what he'd be now after a long injury? Do you know what I mean? Will he actually go into a tackle that we see Starfelt and Vickers going to?
Even you get that kind of injury or that, Paul. I mean, it's exactly. It's like my ankle. Do you know what I mean? I'm always kind of any knock on my ankle. I'm no man, is that knocked a bone out of play? Do you know what I mean?
I was like fucking Robocop and going back and the night where I was bandages on my knees, ankles. Jesus Christ! Like, if it was cold, then I was getting aches and pains.
But I mean, whether it's fitness or whether again it's just down to maybe Julian. I mean, maybe Julian just thought today was get fit and he was going to walk back into the team. Mm-hmm. And if he did that, that's wrong as well. Every player, Paul, excuse me, every player at every club, I mean, you need to earn your place in the team. You know what I mean? Because see, if you're not earning your place in your team, that's when unrest starts happening. You know, if you get players that are just getting it's because it's the manager's pal, he's playing every week and stuff like that. You can't have that kind of thing now.
No, and that's why I think, Mark, we have a manager now in Ange. We say there was a spat, Mark. Like we don't know if there actually was, but the way things are, we think there is. And we have a manager now that says, right, Julian has come out and he's made a negative, we say, not an atmosphere, Mark, but a negative comment in the dressing room saying that I should be played. Straight away, Ange has taken him out of the first team squad. And he hasn't been in that squad since this thing that he supposedly said that he should be playing. Like, so we've a manager now, Mark, that's not going to tolerate that. If you're not happy to be part of the squad, like everyone this year, Mark, more so than any years, it's a squad game, and you can see that with Ange. He's using the squad that he has, and if you're not happy with that, there's the door, Mark, isn't it?
I think so. I've said on the forum last night or just that afternoon, I think it was, Paul, where people were talking about Kyogo and Giacomakis and that. I think, even Kyogo's fit, I think it's going to be a case of whatever player kind of suits who we're playing, Paul. Another one will be on the bench. See if he's going to just play with the one up front. I think both of them will get plenty of game time between them. But that's my plan A and plan B, I think. It's not got, it doesn't change Andy's system. You're actually just changing the kind of attributes of the player that's playing in that central role kind of thing. I think that's the way he's going to go. As you say, it's a squad game. I don't think Ange's got a perfect first choice starting 11. I really don't. I think he just looks at it on like a game by game basis and sees what the opponents are like, and then all these analysts and that again will have their say, Paul, and then they decide on who's the actual starting 11 is. I mean, we can pick the first, we've spoken about it, we can pick Joe Hart, pick the defenders. But again, certain games, Paul, we've seen skills come in at left back and things like that. So,
we've seen Madison come in for Jovanovic, Mark.
I mean, we play that many games, Paul. Everybody in football plays that many games now. It is a squad game. Yeah, I mean, every manager wants a. Ideally, they'll talk about 26-man squad kind of thing. But I think Ange's maybe got like a squad of like 16. That he kind of, that's who he picks his first 11 out of. Is that 16 every week, and then there'll be fringe players waiting in their wee chances. But I don't think Ange's actually got like a first choice pick 11. Even though fans will all sit and pick who we'd start every game with, blah blah blah. I don't think Ange looks at it like that.
Definitely. Moving on, so where was I? Just bear with me now. So we decided to talk about former Celtic player and Neil Lennon's return to management with cryptic side. Oh Christ, why do I even do this? I can't even pronounce the second name. Onamonina, that we just says that. So we've decided to look at Neil Lennon's Celtic career as both a player and manager, and still see if Celtic players, the Celtic fans, kind of have forgiven him over last year's, I would put down, Mark, one of the worst seasons that I saw from a Celtic team, not just because of losing the 10 mark, just the way we gave up that league, Mark. It doesn't matter if it was a 10 in the row season, Mark, it's just the way Celtic performed throughout that season, in the cups, in the League Cups, in the Champions League qualifiers. It was just failure from start to finish.
I mean, you know that 100 times, Paul, but I mean, I wish Neil Lennon all the best. I really do. I hope he makes a success out of him. Cyprus, isn't it? But I think it's good for him to go to Britain, get a job outside Britain and get him away from all the kind of because no matter what job he was going to get, Paul, was all he was going to get was questions about his time at Celtic. And I've never been his biggest fan, as you know. On you go.
Yeah, just to go back to Brian there, he is actually saying where his Scales had a slight little tightness in his muscle 2 weeks ago, and that's why he hasn't been around the squad. It's not an injury, but it's just a tightness in the muscle. So I hope that covers up there, Brian. So spending 7 years at Celtic as a player from 2000 to 2007, Neil Lennon was also Celtic captain. He won 5 titles, 4 Scottish Cups, Scottish League Cups twice, and a one-ups-up medal in the Europa League final in Seville. Also went in Celtic Player of the Year twice, 2003 and again in 2005. As a player, Celtic fans were always fond of the Irishman. Mark, as a player, I think you can't question Neil Lennon's legend status at Celtic.
No question about it as a player.
There was any player, Mark, who gave 100% for Celtic as a player. It was Neil Lennon.
And it wasn't the most gifted player, Paul. But see what he done it well. Do you know what I mean? He was never going to. You know what I mean? He was never like your kind of Zidane's or anything like that, but he stopped doing what he done in the Celtic team. He done it brilliantly. He was a great player for Celtic.
Is that the type of player, Mark, that we're looking for Andrew's system, who sits back and does that job that Neil Lennon did all those years ago?
No, I don't think so, Paul. I don't think Neil Lennon would get in Angie's team. I think maybe Paul Lambert. That's a different. I think Paul Lambert would have got into Angie's team. I mean, Lennon was just your kind of old-fashioned CDM, wasn't he? Defensive midfielder. He just broke up playing, gave the ball to his teammates to let them go and play the game, kind of thing. I think Lambert would have been a better fit for Angie's team.
but for such a small player, Mark, like Neil Lennon was one of the best tacklers in his time at Celtic, wasn't he? He was not shy of putting
No,
in a tackle or stuff like that either, Mark, was he?
no,
You know,
he never shied away from the physical side of the game. Never, I never seen him anyway. He had the heart of a
mhm.
lion, as you said, Paul. He wasn't the biggest, but he had the heart of a lion. I thought Neil Lennon was a great player for Celtic. I'm not going to sit and say anything else. Otherwise, just
Mhm.
because of my opinions on him as a manager
I
or
think
that, Paul.
looking back to that era as well, Mark, uh, under Martin O'Neill, and there were some great times. Like Celtic fans know, like they watched like the 9 in a row, getting all that. They had success. They were thing like, but this was real competition, Mark, that Martin O'Neill had at Celtic. We had Rangers at the height of it. We were up against big Champions League teams. The Europa League putting out Blackburn, Liverpool, big European clubs back at the time, Mark. Back then, Blackburn were. Like that was a great era
Oh,
to be a
aye.
Celtic fan, wasn't it?
Oh, it was brilliant. I was sitting watching that highlights of the Juventus game
Yeah,
yesterday on Celtic
yeah,
TV. I can remember that night, man. That
yeah.
was brilliant that night.
And I think that's you like one thing I remember about Neil Lennon, Mark, not just as a player, but as a manager as well. I know he gave us some bad results in Europe and stuff like that, but Neil Lennon, in both manager and player, was part of Celtic teams who gave us some great European nights at Celtic Park under the lights, didn't they?
Oh,
Barcelona, you could pull to Lazio games, Mark. We had some great nights, and I think
aye.
winning the league, getting that back next season, Mark, having these Champions League games at Celtic Park in the group stage, it'd be
See,
just
see, what apart from
brilliant.
last, see, really, Paul, apart from last season, right? You look at Neil Lennon's time at Celtic as a player and as a manager. As I said, cancel it last season. There was a hell of a lot more highs than there was lows, Paul. A
Oh,
hell of a lot more
definitely, yeah.
good times than there was bad times.
hmm
And see,
like I'm a
see
big
when he was
believer, Mark.
manager the first time, Paul. I had no qualms with him being the manager the first time. It was after a couple of years. It was just you could. I'm like some great guru or that. I could see it getting stale and I could see things going wrong. And we weren't really progressing as a club.
hmm
Well, I mean
hmm
that was my thing. What I was talking about earlier on, Paul. We had chances to put. You know what I mean? You really just
We
take yourself to another level. We never done it. We just kind of stuck with Lennon rather than.
we just we just talk about Lennon's time. As a manager, Lennon had two spells at Celtic altogether, winning 5 titles, 4 Scottish Cups, and 1 Scottish League Cup. Giving us some great results in the Europa League, beating Lazio 2-1, beating the Barcelona team full of greats at the time in their prime. Some great European nights at Celtic Park that the fans remember. But can we actually, Mark? And this is why I'm bringing this up, because I don't think we can put all the blame on Neil Lennon for last season. That's why I kind of wrote this up. But can we actually blame Neil Lennon for everything that went wrong last season as a manager
No,
who had no control over players that were being signed? He wasn't left bringing his own back row team. There was a
I,
split between players, Mark, in the dressing room who wanted to leave and who didn't want to leave. Uh, like,
but as I said as well, Paul, the blame for me, I mean, and I'll say this again, we
it's
were,
Peter Lawler, Mark, for giving him
aye,
that job, I think.
but I'll say it, and I've said it at the time, we were lucky that it went tits up for Lennon at Hibs,
Yeah,
and that he was
definitely.
available to get us over the line, but that's where it should have stopped.
hmm
We could have offered him a job, whether he offered him a job, not as a coach or that, even working in the scouting department, and I don't know, analysing games, doing something, but after we won the league, kind of 4 or 5 month spell. That should have been that should have been his time done. But
Definitely.
the ultimate blame, as you said, Paul, lies with Lowe and Dermot Desmond for appointing him.
Mhm. Because if I was Neil Lennon, right, and if I came in there as interim manager, Mark, and at that time then he won the treble with Celtic as interim manager, then he was off the job. Like, can you blame Neil Lennon, Mark, being the Celtic man that he is, the love that he has for the club and the fans. You can't blame him for taking that job, can you?
No, you can't blame him. He's just came up. Excuse me. He just came up, but off the back of winning a treble.
Mm-hmm.
And two of the trophies he saw are the line, Paul, the league and the Scottish Cup. He's basically him himself won Celtic a double that season.
Yeah.
So you can't blame him for taking it, but you've got to think as well, Paul. What did he think it was going to be different for the last time? What did Long Desmond tell him?
Because what I can't understand,
he wanted to bring in
Parker.
Parker. He wanted to bring him in and right away. Low wasn't allowing that. That's gossip. There's rumours. We don't know what's real and not real. But
what I can't understand, Mark, is that when Neil Lennon left the first time, he left because Peter Lorre was selling the spine of a team that he built. You know, he was selling the backbone. Foster was gone, Van Dijk's was gone, the midfield was gone, all these top players. Hooper was sold that time. George Ledley was sold that time, Mark. We were kind of
downsizing,
downsizing.
It was all Peter Lorre. I mean,
that was one of the reasons he left, Mark. And as you said, like, what did Neil Lennon think changed this time around for him to accept in that job? You know,
maybe as well, Paul. Just what I was going to say there. And at the time, when hindsight's a wonderful thing, when we look back, maybe it was a good thing that John Park was involved at Celtic. When Lennon was first manager, John Park, at least he was a football guy, Paul, making your decisions about signings and stuff like that. It kind of, we know that Lowell trusted him. So maybe even at that, Lennon thought, well, if John Park's no the man, maybe I'm going to be the man this time. And it just didn't work out again that way, did it?
Because
really?
I heard something very different recently, Mark, about Shane Duffy, that Neil Lennon actually didn't want Shane Duffy.
I've heard a few people saying that,
Paul. That actually Desmond and Peter Lorre wanted him because of the Irish connection between the club and his love for being at Celtic. And I think
marketing kind of ploy, isn't it? Really,
you know, and I think that seems to be a lot. But then I'm saying, Mark, he's no control over signings, and then you see this thing really that was going to be a loan, and he was signing. And then,
see the thing about that, Paul. See if there was a no instruction at the club. Do you get what I mean? You wouldn't have blamed Neil Lennon for signings.
Like we have no,
see if you, Paul, I keep going about director of football and that, right? See if you come out and you say, right, look, see, right, Ange, Neil Lennon, anybody, right? You're just the coach, you're the first team coach. You don't take anything to do with signings. The people behind the scenes deal on who we're signing, director of football, the scouts, they work on the signings. And it's up to the manager to integrate them into the team. Then the fans know this. But see, when you're kind of left guessing and relying on rumours and gossip about what's going on, it blurs the lines as well. If Neil Lennon's no get any say in players that are coming in, how can you expect him to get the best of these players out? Do you get what I mean?
Interesting there, boy. When I am there, David Desmond supposedly signed Hart and McCarthy. Well, I tell you the interesting one about Hart. When Fraser Foster left that time, I read, Mark, that Joe Hart was under the radar at Celtic back then, but there was three coaches. It was Woods, Lennon, and Kennedy. All went for Barkhouse instead. That's why we didn't sign Hart back then. You know.
I don't know. You might be right with that, Paul, but I know for a fact that there's a lot of people at Celtic, especially Stevie Woods, that went for Barkas.
Barkas. They didn't want Hart because of his age.
I said Barkas. I say that right there.
Yeah, that's why I think, Mark, they didn't go for Hart.
Stevie Woods had been watching him for 18 months, Paul.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, you're going to trust Stevie Woods, aren't you? It's no worked out. Obviously, the Barkas deal's no worked out. We'll probably end up losing money on him, whatever. But If Stevie Woods is recommending a player, you're going to rely on his judgment, really.
Mhm. But how will Celtic fans, Mark, like it's a year on now, Mark, like the team's doing well and stuff like that. Like, are fans, will fans ever forgive Neil Lennon for losing the 10 mark, or
Oh, times
do you
a
think that
good,
will change over time? Mark's a good hero. Like, when
times a good healer, Paul.
is, like, what would you classify Neil Lennon at the club, Mark, at this moment?
Uh, he's probably a bit. Just the wounds are still fresh, Paul. So he's probably
Like, you
still.
look at the titles, Mark,
But I'll tell you, right,
like,
Paul. I go right. We've spoken about this before, right? See, our time. I would love to see like statues or see the Celtic Way at Celtic Park. I'd love to see statues,
hmm definitely.
right? And see eventually our time. Neil Lennon deserves a statue on that walkway.
hmm
I know this year. I'm talking about years to come when people, right? We'll all move on for this, Paul. See if we win the league this year, that'll kind of help a wee bit with it. But people will forget it was a bummer of a season.
Like, you're talking
I
about
mean,
Scott Brown, Mark, giving at least about 14 years. Like, how many years was Scott Brown at Celtic, Mark? 12 years most, 13 most? Like,
but silly as
Neil Lennon
that.
spent the best mark nearly 20 years at Celtic, like combined between player and manager. Do you know what I mean?
But
Like, it's so.
that's what I'm saying, Paul. Eventually, our time, guys like Scott Brown would deserve some kind of statue on this kind of walkway I've got dreamed up. Do you know what I
hmm
mean? Not that now, I'm not talking about right here now, maybe 20, 30, 40 years' time when they're even maybe dead and buried kind of thing, do you know what I mean? But
But it
that's,
should be, Mark. I mean, you're
aye,
honouring players who gave their life to the club. Like, you know what I mean? Like there was one man, like, and you can't say it about Mark. He gave the best part of his whole career to
his
Celtic.
life, Paul, we gave
Yeah.
Neil Lennon, let's no, can't dust out it, Paul, way to put up with off the field and things like that.
hmm
You know what I mean? That's
No, no, because
horrendous,
I still
absolutely
remember that time
horrendous.
up in, is it against Hearts, when the player, the fan jumped onto the pitch, and like, I still remember that, Mark. Like,
And to get off it,
yeah, and they were
about
toxic times. Like,
sending bombs to him and bullets through the post and stuff like that, and things like that disgusting. You know what I mean? So you've got to take that into consideration as well. He could have just turned around and said, "That's I'm not putting up with this." You know what I mean?
hmm
Threatening his wife and kids and stuff. That's a no go, really. Do you know what I mean?
And even from Mark, from like, not just from their fans as well, like, but from our own fans as well, Mark, at the latter part of last season. Like, and I agree with a lot all Celtic fans that Neil Lennon should have walked away from the club when we were doing bad. Like, he had a chance to walk away so we could sort out the mess that we were in last season, but he didn't. He stuck in there. But there was no need for the carry on, Mark, that some Celtic fans and the abuse
No,
that they gave Neil Lennon last season. You know,
Lennon, the players, even the board and things like that. I mean, fair dues. They all dropped the ball. Right, it was a
but is he right
major.
though, Mark? So, sorry, is he right though in saying that there's a new generation of fans out there, fans who haven't experienced the bad times in Celtic when I was growing up, and a lot of these fans, Mark, were just used to Celtic winning.
Oh,
You know, they'd
well,
never
aye.
experienced losing.
Well, Paul, let's be honest. Right, see if you were 9 year old
hmm
when Celtic started winning 9 in a row. You're now like 19, 20. You've been
hmm
thinking. All you've ever known Celtic winning, winning,
Like,
winning.
like United Ireland. you know,
He just thinks that he can't mind much of Celtic winning or losing. I don't think it's just one big
yeah, but
blur.
it's but he's right though, Mark. Ain't he? Like, there's fans out there who've never experienced. Like, I remember years and years ago, Mark, growing up, dreading the Celtic derby because we used to get pumped in them. Do you know what I mean? You know, and now it's the opposite way around. Like, a lot of fans haven't, like, this. I said this is the first major rebuild that a lot of Celtic fans have actually seen, Mark.
Aye, that's basically what it was, Paul. All these guys that were just young guys that were just used to Celtic winning, and then all of a sudden we didn't win anything. And I mean,
Hmm.
it was a big top, really, Paul, for God for winning trebles to nothing, not even a cup or
Yeah,
anything. Do you know what I mean?
that's what I'm saying. Like Mark, like
But these things, I mean, these things happen all over the
there's
world.
definitely something, Mark. Like I know we can like there's a few things we can blame Lennon on, like for the likes of playing a player whose legs were gone, and we knew they were gone. Was Scott Brown? I mean, there was some decisions he made himself, Mark, that didn't make it easy for him. Like telling Barkas one week he was number one keeper, and the next week then taking him out of the game, the squad altogether. You know, that kind of stuff. He did himself no favors either.
He doesn't handle the media well, Paul.
No,
And I think, I honest to God, Paul, think that goes back to like treatment he had as a player up here and things like
yeah,
that. And why,
exactly. Kind of defensive mode kind of
I
thing,
mean,
Mark,
when
isn't
you
it?
think back to it, Paul, I mean, honestly, when you think back to it, Paul, it's absolute madness that a football player was getting bombs and bullets in that sent to him through the post. And
Definitely.
in Scotland. And I think, but
Mhm.
maybe, I mean, I'm not saying the press didn't report it and that, but the press should have maybe have been, I don't know,
Yes,
pushing.
they want they
Ah,
want do nothing to help it either, Mark, were they?
no, they weren't at the time. There was a lot of nonsense going on. Can you make the stuff of this Christmas night out down in Newcastle and stuff like that? It was all made up lies and things. And I think maybe that's why Lennon did have a bit of a chip in his shoulder with the press. And
Hmm.
kind of awful habit as well of throwing players under the buses in public. Never a good thing in management, Paul. It never works. What I was saying
Hmm.
earlier, there's some harsh truths to be told in that in the dressing room. That's the place. That's the place to do it. You don't throw your
I
players
think
under the
that's the
bus in
one
the
thing
press.
about thing about Ange, Mark, this season, and I think that's why I think we're doing so good. Everything is done in house. You don't get nothing off Ange. Even with injuries, Mark, we don't get nothing off Ange. Everything is protected, and the way it should be, Mark. The players are protected, the club is protected, the media don't get nothing. Like the lads were going on about that there today. Like we saw Kyogo at the training ground, training today, and they were like, answering like he wasn't kidnapped. Like you know what I mean, he was
Aye,
injured.
aye.
You know, like I've never saw a
I've never,
Celtic manager,
not
Mark,
just
who can
Celtic.
actually get at the media in Scotland. Like you know,
Paul, I've never known another manager to. I don't know. Is that maybe something they do in Japan, Paul, with injuries? They just kind of don't talk about them. It's just data protection. It's
I
I'm like,
think so, Mark. There must be, Mark,
I've
because I
never.
didn't even know Turnbull was back, Mark, till that squad was named yesterday.
But I mean, he said it himself when he was asked about it. Look, I'm not like a doctor. It's not up to me. I'm not
Hmm.
going to sit here and talk about somebody's personal medical history. But it's just that you can, when you think about it, you can understand that. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? It's like I don't know, but I've never heard another manager taking that approach. But Angie's certainly wise to the media as well. Angie's well
Oh,
media savvy, really. I don't know if
he is, Mark.
that's.
He has him at the back of his hand, don't he? You know, he has,
In,
he has and you know what? The Scottish media hate it.
I think
You
he's
know,
kind of laid back, kind of Aussie twang
yeah,
with the things. I think that kind of helps you. It's a bit, what's it, deadpan into it. It's a kind of deadpan humour into it.
yeah. Because I remember a couple of weeks back, someone asked about Kyoga injury again, and he goes, "Did you not? Did you not ask this question last week?" And I told you he could be weeks away. Like, what has changed in a week? You know, unless he has some miraculous healing remedy that I don't know about. I mean, he's still injured. You know, like he just winds them up, Mark,
Uh,
and they can't take it. Like, and I think that's why
the press
a lot of
laughed at
our
him. The
main,
press
yeah,
laughed at him. Even
yeah,
that, did you see that Alan Brazil clip that was on Twitter for
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
I mean, the press laughed at him. Oh, he boot the door by Christmas, and we said earlier, even if we don't win the league, Paul, this has been some turnaround for Celtic this season.
Most definitely, Mark. Even to win for Celtic where we are now, to win the first cup that was an offer in the League Cup, and we won that. We're now ahead of the title. we've a chance in the semi-final to put our rivals out of that cup. So there's potential, Mark, that Rangers will win nothing and and Andrew will win the triple at Celtic for a manager, like you said, that every media expert in Scotland said will be out the door by Christmas. And
I
that's why I think,
laughed at him as we kind of
yeah,
Australian, Crocodile, Dundee, home and away.
and that's what I think, Mark. This season, Mark, if we win the league this season, it, in my lifetime, Mark, being a Celtic fan, it's going to be one of the biggest. Like, I know we stopped there 9 in a row and stuff like that, but this will be one of the biggest achievements a Celtic manager has done at Celtic. One, because we had no CEO at the club. There was shambles in the backroom staff. We had no squad. We put a team of youths together, Mark, in the Champions League qualifiers that in my opinion, gave as good as they could, Mark. We got into did well in the Europa League, Mark, in a tough group. Like any other year, Mark, with the points we had, we were qualified.
Some it's just been a bit of bad luck, isn't it? It has.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul, you're talking about, right, and I'll get back to it, you're talking about players with just been put into the qualifiers. Tony Ralston only got a year's contract basically because we'd never right back.
No, exactly.
And look at him now.
And you think of it, Mark, you're going back to the first couple of months under him
if Tony Ralston was any uglier, he would be Gary Neville.
Definitely. And another thing, Mark, as well, is that this Celtic team under Ange coped with all the injuries that we had in the first couple of months of the season. Up until January, Mark, we had injuries week in and week out, week in and week out. And there was sometimes there, Mark, we were putting out second string teams who were still getting results because we had a manager who believed in his philosophy and he believed in the players he put on the pitch in that day, that they knew that they were going to do a job for him. It's all belief, Mark, that he's brought into this squad.
Right. Man management into it, Paul.
Yeah.
The respect and buying into the manager's plans and the manager getting into the players' heads and giving them that kind of self-belief. I mean, there'll be players, it's like there's players all through football. Some players need a wee cuddle around them, a bit like Stubbsy. And other players need a pure bit up the arse at times, and that's what good managers do. And for me, that's Ange. We're talking about the way he deals with the press. You can imagine Ange, a nice guy to sit and talk to, and you know what I mean. You can see that I don't know how to put it, Paul. His personality, he's got an endearing personality. You can tell that he'll get on, whether he's sitting there talking to multi-millionaires like Dermot Desmond or whether he's sitting there talking to your idiots in the street like me and you. You can tell that he's got that kind of thing in him that he can deal with all people at all these different levels, kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. But you look at the two, Mark, all the obstacles we'll have to overcome under him, you know what I mean? No other club, and I mean no other club anywhere, would still be in the title race with the injuries we had. Mark, these were injuries to key players like Cal McGregor, Kyogo, Abada. There was injuries to Yasha. These were key players, and we still dealt with it. Do you know what I mean? No.
I'm just glad that Hart didn't get injured, Paul.
That's the big one for me, Mark. And that is a big one for me because I'm still questioning, does he actually have any bit of faith in, I'm not going to say Barkers. I think Barkers is going to go at the end of the season anyway, Mark. But has he actually any faith in Bain if Bain is actually not getting a run in any of the cup games?
Well, who gave him a contract, Paul? Who decided to give him a new contract?
I know that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Out of the three, I think Bain is the best between Hazard, Barkas, and Bain. But I still think, Mark, this young lad, Toby, will be in and around the first team next season. I won't be surprised, Mark, if he be on the bench more often than Bain next season. You know, I think one thing about Ange, Mark, is he seems to be building for the future. And I think that's a good sign because I hopefully Ange actually sees Celtic as a long term project, not just here one year Mark gone out the door the next year. Do you know? I think he's actually buying into Celtic as the future for the club, and hopefully Mark the club see that as well, Mark. You know, as you what we talked about the other day, Mark, that it's only a 1 year contract he's on. You know what I mean? Celtic now should knuckle down and go, right, Ange, look, we want you to stay. You know, here's a new long term contract for you. Build on what you have building and finish the job.
I've heard some rumours that there's talks going on about a new contract, that Paul, but if you get back, it's usually around about April.
Rogers got that, didn't he? Yeah.
Aye. I mean, the 1 year long contract. See, to be honest, Paul, the only thing that matters about that is if Ange left us at any point, all we're due is a year's compensation. I mean, because it's actually, see, if Ange handed in his notice tonight to Celtic, it would still be a year's notice. See, if he'd done it tomorrow, it would still be, it's every day, it's a year kind, that's what it means by a long contract. Aye.
Yeah.
But no, that tie him down, I've said it, Paul. See, tie him down, he's, what is he, 56, 57 now? Tie him down.
Like my ideal thing, Mark, for him, Mark, is
going to director of football. Aye, we'll talk about that. That would do me.
And then come a director of football and let him bring in a manager who he knows will continue.
And see, even in the modern era, Paul, I suppose you could probably be a director of football, and you wouldn't even need to spend that much time in Scotland and Glasgow. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to dig up some information about that, Paul. But I mean, a director of football just like moving chess pieces on a board, really, isn't it? You don't need to be really hands-on in the stadium or in the training ground day to day kind of thing.
I think you could come around some of the key dates then, Mark. You know, like transfer window days and.
When needs must, you come in for it. Aye.
You know, it's interesting, right? That's all for tonight, folks. Thanks for you and the live chat for joining us tonight. Some debates, really, Mark, I think, over Neil Lennon, you know, but in my opinion, Mark, I think he will go down as a Celtic legend. I think he has to be a Celtic legend, Mark, for what he did for the club.
One disastrous season, fair enough. One disastrous season out of 20 odd years associated with the club.
Like with that season, Mark, would have, if it wasn't a 10 in a row and we lost the title, would have been more of the anger towards Lee Lennon in any other situation. Do you get me?
I think it would have been like 6 or 7 in a row and he'd lost it.
Yeah.
I think it was a 10.
It was a 10 in the row, wasn't it?
It was a bit of a milestone in the entire club's neck, Paul. And I just think that Peter Lawwell and Dermot Desmond they took their eye off the ball.
Yeah, and definitely.
Sentimentality, being sentimental, kind of ruled their head. The heart ruled their head when they appointed Lennon full time after it. And
I think
just said, with the amount of players, the amount of unhappy players in that, Paul, it was just a bad mix. It really was.
Definitely. And I think, going back to something you said earlier on the podcast, Mark, winning the title this season and getting that financial award, like, that's going to put Celtic on a pedestal, like, as you said, for the next 5 years, and it put Rangers in their box again. And it could, Mark, and it well could put Rangers in financial trouble next season if they don't win.
Definitely it'll have an effect on them, Paul. They put all their eggs in the basket to beat us last season to the league, and they've done it, fair play to them. But they've not spent any money, they've not got any better.
No.
And see, well, again, I don't know, this is one for probably wee Buzz, but if the Scottish champions are getting into the Champions League this season, who's to say that it's not going to become, like, for season after this? Do you get what I mean? If Celtic can win the league the next couple of years, get a few results in the Champions League, let them do what they're going to do, the Europa League or whatever it is going to be, And if that coefficient stays up as high, the Champions League will still stay in Scotland. Yeah. If Celtic get it this year, it's theirs to throw away. It really is.
Exactly. We'll leave it on that note. Thanks, lads, in the live chat for joining us. Mark, we close the show.
All right, thanks very much, Paul. Everybody that joined us, all the lads in the live chat, thanks very much for coming in. As I say, hit the like button if you know what to do, how to do it. Leave a comment as well, because it helps us move up the algorithm on YouTube. Share it, like it, whatever. Thanks very much, lads. Good night, God bless, and hail, hail.